Welcome to Sunlight Sessions, where we bring health and knowledge into the light. I'm your host, Raman, and I'm honored to be joined by two incredible guests from Nature Sunshine. Dr. Kim Balas is a board-certified naturopath and the clinical director for the Hughes Center of Excellence. With more than 25 years of experience, she has advanced education, research, and herbal product knowledge under her belt while running her own full-time practice in Wyoming and consulting internationally. Alongside her is Mike Saunders, VP of Scientific Innovation at Nature Sunshine, with over 20 years of experience in research and development, including a decade in the pharmaceutical industry. Mike has authored more than 20 scientific publications and patents. He's passionate about blending modern science with traditional herbalism, creating effective products with proven efficacy, and he's an expert flavorist. I didn't know that was a thing, but that is so cool. Can you tell me how I can become a flavorist too? I'm honored to welcome you both to this Sunlight session. Thank you for joining me, Mike and Dr. Ballas. Now, if you've spent any time on TikTok, Instagram, or just diving into wellness blogs, you've probably noticed that biohacking is everywhere. Every time I scroll, there's some new trend coming, and I'm just so tempted to try it. But here's the real question. Are these trends truly helpful, or are they just a hype? So before we jump into the specifics, Mike and Dr. Ballas, when you hear the word biohacking, what does it mean to you, and why do you think it's become such a hot topic in health and the wellness today? Mike, you can
I'll
start.
tell you first, if I see it on the internet, I believe it 100% of the time. It's definitely true.
Me too.
Um, obviously. Um,
Sorry.
Biohacking is actually, I think, a really interesting concept because it's trying to do things to theoretically, anyway, maximize your body's capabilities.
Right.
Um, a lot of the things that we talk about, though, when we talk about biohacking, are much more along the lines of trying to give you a band-aid because you're not very healthy to begin with. I mean, in my mind, biohacking, I should be as optimized as I can be from a diet lifestyle perspective. I should be a relatively healthy person. And then I'm tweaking things, I'm adding things, I'm giving myself an advantage. And I kind of like the idea of like experimenting on myself. I've been doing it for as long as I've been alive, pretty much.
Yeah.
But diet, lifestyle, exercise, I've always experimented on myself. So that concept of biohacking, I think is exciting. But when you give it to the average person in the United States or in Canada or pretty much anywhere around the world, they're not very healthy to begin with. Their diet's not in order, their exercise isn't in order, and they're trying to do things to optimize when their foundation is basically still already falling apart.
I agree with all of that too, Mike. That broad term, how you want to, we see like different things on from a clinical level, supplementally like nootropics and everything to enhance mental performance. So we're using like science and technology. And basically they really should be starting with lifestyle for that. I mean, I get like messages and like people that send me stuff every day on different technology that could biohack, the different, here's how to alter, like going into a deeper level, your mitochondria. So all of those exercise, the supplements, everything, sleep tracking, all of those I would consider biohacking. And so basically we're talking about a term that encompasses just overall well-being.
Yeah, just to promote longevity. I feel like longevity is on everyone's mind. We want to live longer, but people don't realize that we want to give years to the lives we have, right? So I
Well,
agree with
yeah,
you.
the quality of
Yeah,
life. And I
quality of
think
life.
everybody, I think being hit by so many things like environmentally and like our food supply and even just like mentally, just watching the news, sometimes everybody wants to optimize that quality of
Right,
life. And we're getting inundated with things that make that harder and harder.
right. I
And
truly
one
agree.
thing that I really think is interesting, the reason why I think biohacking appeals to people is because it has this idea that there is a quick fix to something. I don't
Right.
have to work hard. I just have to take, do this one simple trick or whatever, and all of a sudden things start to fall into line for me. But really, the best biohack out there, honestly, exercise every day, eat vegetables, eat whole fruits, whole foods, and that's gonna take care of like 90%. And then from there you can optimize.
So one of the busiest trends right now that I've been seeing is cold plunging. People swear by its recovery, metabolism, mood regulation. Dr. Ballas, from a naturopathic perspective, are the benefits real or are they just overhyped?
Well, okay, so we have to temper our audience because, from a clinical perspective, I'm not going to say one thing works for everybody
Right.
because we're all, it's like a fingerprint. Everybody's different. So a lot of athletes are using it for recovery and like improved cardiovascular health. But some people will have like a cortisol, like an adrenal reaction to that. And if you already have a weakened adrenal, then that could be something that is not exactly ideal for you. So it just depends. It's different for everyone. Like some people like long, relaxing hot bath, and then the cold plunge is more of a quick therapeutic, dip in the ice water. So you can do it, but it's like you want to start like so you need some instructions, right? Like the starting range and like how long you're going to stay in it and the shorter durations. And then effectively, here's our big thing that we try to get through. And Mike and I do this like on every talk we do is having people pay attention to their own body, because some people might get stressed out from it. Some people might feel great relief from it, especially in muscles, like their physical and mental functional benefits of it. But it's like there's also the, to help with the sore muscles and reducing body temp. Some people say it helps them focus. Some people say, well, I sleep better after I've done them, but and the decrease in inflammation. But then some people, like with high blood pressure, get like a weird reaction to them sometimes, and it's like, or with the peripheral neuropathy, or with poor circulation. So everybody is different. I think overall for muscle inflammation, yeah, I mean, I'm on board if you're monitoring it the right way and you're an athlete. And then if you have other contraindications, then check with your practitioner before you do it.
Okay, Mike, what does science say about deliberate hypothermia? Like, should we be doing it? Should we do it once a week? Should we do it every day? What is your thoughts on that?
So cold plunging isn't really a new thing. I
Yep.
mean, back in football, back in the 70s, people were jumping into ice baths to try and, uh, recover because cold reduces inflammation.
Right.
Um, and so if I'm an athlete,
Okay.
then I might do cold plunges to reduce delayed onset muscle soreness, to be able to recover better. Um, and there's even like cryotherapy now where you go into these cryo
Yeah, I
chambers.
saw that. The
Yeah,
freezing chambers or something.
it's basically
Yeah.
because you're in air. If you're in water and you were to go down to this temperature, you basically freeze. But
Right.
in air, air doesn't conduct temperature as well. So you can get into one of these chambers and they can bring it down super, super cold for a short period of time. And it basically like does the effect of the ice water bath, but even quicker. And I
Okay.
had friends that did this when I was doing powerlifting.
Yeah.
Um, there there's some issues with it
Hmm.
because inflammation is actually important as far as adaptation to exercise. So if I'm doing a cold plunge or one of these cryotherapy things right after exercise, I'm knocking down the inflammation to the point where I may not adapt to the exercise that I did. So I'm actually going to retard muscle growth, retard muscle adaptation. Now, there's other reasons why people do cold plunges. Um, One of the things that Kim pointed out is really, really important. When it comes to cold, it creates stress. It is intentionally creating stress on the body, and it puts you into that fight or flight mode a little bit. It theoretically can be like good stress, where there's actually been studies where they're trying to uh, look at how the body responds and how the brain responds under stress. and they'll put people in cold water and have them take a test. And they do better on the test in cold water than they did on the test in regular conditions, because that small amount of stress, it basically releases norepinephrine. It causes your body to be able to work a little bit better. It's that fight or flight response that kind of takes you up to the next level. If you're already in a stress state, it can actually cause HPA axis imbalances and problems. And that's why Kim's saying it's kind of something for everybody, depending on what you're doing. The other thing people talk about when they talk about cold therapy is basically there's the whole concept of like fat freezing.
Yeah, I've seen that. The
And there's
cool
this,
sculpting, right? Is what they call it.
Yeah, there's the
Yeah.
cool sculpting. Yeah, and people are using cryogenics that way too, with the cryo machines.
I heard like it could react negatively, like your the fat cells might increase. Like some people have a reaction. I don't know if that's true or not, but I did read that somewhere. Is that
I'm not a proponent of the cool sculpting thing.
yeah,
People try to do cold plunges to burn fat.
right. Mm-hmm.
And there's a physiological reason why people do that, because if I'm cold, I'm actually burning more energy.
Right.
So if I go up in elevation, my body's under more stress, I'm burning more energy. If I go into a cold environment, my body's under stress, my body's trying to create metabolic heat basically to keep my core temperature up. So I'm burning more energy. So there's this concept of burning more calories because of this cold water. And the problem is what Kim said is really accurate. It causes stress. And the other thing that it does as far as cardiovascular health, it increases blood pressure. It causes vasoconstriction. So to me, if you are an athlete and you want to reduce muscle soreness, then absolutely do some cold water plunges if you want to, but do it 6 to 8 hours after training, because that gives your body that time to start adaptation, and it can still knock down some of the delayed onset muscle soreness.
Okay.
If you're looking to lose weight, it's not really the right way to go about it.
Okay, that was so interesting.
No, I was just gonna add too. I think some of the cold, the cold plunging, cryogenics and stuff all has some validity. And then I go back to, for us, because we're herbalists, right? We're all working with the herbs here.
Right.
And I look at Dr. Christopher, he used to teach that cold sheet treatment for people that had fevers. So, that you get out of a hot shower and you wrap in a cold sheet. And then you get through the fever part of it. So, I mean, there were some therapeutic connotations to it to use in different ways. Mm-hmm. So I guess we're back to what you asked, Ramandeep, is it daily? Is it every day? Is it every once in a while? We have the nurse practitioner that we're connected with does the cool sculpting. And it's not a one-time deal. People have to do a series of treatments on that. So it's kind of like, as an herbalist, we're saying, well, hey, you could just be fixed after this, 2 pills, and we can't say that. So I don't think we can say that with a lot of therapeutics we're talking about too. You have to look at the end game on it.
Yeah, there is good science around mood boosting as well, which is that whole neurotransmitter release from stress, as long as you're not already in a stressed state.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Because we don't really think about that. Like if I see someone cold plunging, the last thing I'm thinking about is my body stressed or not, because it's just like a trend, right? So I want to try it, but that makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing your perspectives on that. Another,
I think they have they just have some places. I just saw last time I was down in Salt Lake, they have this little like different vendors, or like their little stores, little shops that are called Plunge, that you can go in and do those. Mike, have you seen those?
I have not. No,
I have not seen those here either, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just a franchise, and it's called
it's marketing
with a J. Yeah, with J. It's a PLUNJE. Yeah, those are interesting. So I haven't been in one, so maybe I'll drag Mike into one next time I'm down.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm pretty heavy. You're gonna have to work hard to drag me.
Another massive trend I've been seeing is intermittent fasting. There's so many hours of fasting, like there's the 12, the 14, the 16, the 18, the 20. What is the optimal fasting window that's backed by research that will help impact your digestion and your hormones or just your overall health? Like, what is there a specific number we should just stick to, or does it really just depend on every single individual?
Okay, so I've done a lot of intermittent fasting.
Hmm.
I personally do not like intermittent fasting for myself. That being said, there are some very strong hormone benefits to it as far as insulin control. The reason I don't like it for myself is because I don't have very good self-control, I think. I think that's my issue, in all honesty. So when I did intermittent fasting, I would get to a certain point. I usually did like a 16-ish hour fast, which I think is pretty typical.
Okay.
I might even have gone up as much as like 20 hours in my fast. Um, the problem that I had was I would end up eating very late at night, and I would end up eating a large amount of generally unhealthy food because when I get really hungry, I crave stuff. And I haven't eaten all day, so I should be able to eat what I want. And I think that's what a lot of people do when it comes to intermittent fasting. They get overly hungry and they get to the point where they feel justified in eating whatever they want to eat because they've already fasted. It's their eating window. They can eat whatever. And then they overeat late in the day on things like pizza or other junk foods. Then throughout the entire night, they have a full stomach. They're digesting their food throughout the entire night. They have elevated blood sugar, elevated insulin levels throughout the entire night. And even though you're not eating, during the day, you can actually end up with hepatic insulin sensitivity issues. That being said, if you do intermittent fasting correctly, which I would say don't eat late at night, have your big meal be far enough from sleep that you've mostly digested your food, uh, and still try to make sure that you're eating healthy foods, intermittent fasting can be a very useful tool for insulin control, blood sugar control, and maintaining good metabolic health if it's done correctly.
Right.
Yeah. So this is kind of like, I like this, Mike. It's like he said, she said. I love this because I'm kind of like, I'm in favor of intermittent fasting. And I do see people get great results on it. I have to monitor like that window of how long they can fast because I'm having them do, I like to do it when you have like a CGM, which is a controlled glucose monitor, so I can monitor numbers when they first start something like this, especially if they are more prone to having a lack of metabolic flexibility or that hyperinsulinemia. So I monitor it different. It's also different for women than men. Okay,
Yeah.
so I like Mindy Pell's book, and it's like Fast Like a Girl. That's a really good read for women that want to start the intermittent fasting. I try to start women on a 12-hour window first.
Okay.
And Mike and I did a whole webinar on this that maybe I'm not sure if that's in our back office or not, Mike, but I know we recorded that one. Um, I use it to help them get like improvements with metabolic markers, like specifically if they're going towards low blood sugar levels or reduced insulin resistance. And I've also seen a lipid improvement, like with triglycerides and some LDL cholesterol on it too. So I just really am particular with it, especially if they are like type 2 diabetes or they have like heart, issues or cardiovascular issues, or they're on cardiovascular medication. So I kind of play it by ear like that with patients. I do like that it gives your body time for the cellular repair and longevity during that process. But I have people cut off at least 2.5 hours prior to bed. And I also have them bump up their enzymes with that last meal so that they're getting more breakdown. So, like Mike was saying, exactly like you don't want to have that full stomach overnight. Then the first thing I tell them to do is the first thing that has to go in your mouth has to be a fat or a protein, no carb. So, you do have to be committed to it. I have a lot of patients that do different eating plans. Like there's a bright line eating, there's like Mediterranean, there's paleo, there's keto. So our overall goal though, I think with any lifestyle or food plan is how we want them to take their nutrients better, and we want that reduced inflammation, because those inflammation markers are like underlying key to everything. So when we talk about longevity, we've got to reduce inflammation. And I know it sounds like we just keep saying that and saying that, but it's just such a chronic issue right now.
So I think some of the things Kim said are really, really important. The problem that I see with intermittent fasting is that people think of it as an easy button towards better health. They can kind of eat what they want. They can kind of do what they want, and still maintain healthy blood sugar, still maintain healthy insulin because they're fasting for a period. And people end up becoming less healthy when they're doing it on their own in a naive way. What Kim is saying, and I totally agree with her, is it is a valuable tool to help get you to become healthier, especially when it comes to hormone balancing, like insulin, that kind of thing, especially when it comes to inflammation. But having the help of somebody, I mean, if I had Kim and I'm talking to Kim and she's helping me with my diet and helping me to understand what I need to eat and what I need to do, then I know I'm going to be healthy. If I'm just doing it on my own, it can actually be worse than
it can have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I've seen
it takes some guidance.
Yeah, guidance is very important. Being accurate, like you said, like there's ways to fast. And can you fast long term? Like, is that okay? Like, if you just continue fasting for 12 hours or 16 hours, like months and months, is that okay?
Yeah, not for me, but I'm sure people love it. I mean, it depends. So, there are religious examples where you go into fasting. We just had one, for our Jewish holidays, for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. That's our period of fasting. So, I mean, there are certain like different scenarios with that. Again, under guidance, and then I have one lady that really likes to fast on a 3-day weekend once a month. And I'm like, well, hats off, lady. I can't do that. But she does really well with it, and she's very structured, and she's been doing it for most of her adult life. So she's developed, that innate response to it. So I don't recommend it with the blood sugar. If we were in a different environment without like all of the modern distractions and having to go to work doing that and everything, maybe like at a retreat, okay, under guidance and doing, relaxation techniques and the right food stuff, maybe, I'm not opposed to it. I just think it takes a lot of commitment. It can be a powerful tool for improving health, but again, I know, sorry, back to every individual is so different. So monitor how you respond of just not having food for 12 hours.
Right. Okay.
So I want to go back to your question because I'm not sure I understood the question totally. Are you saying, is it okay to fast for 12 hours every day for an extended period of time with intermittent fasting style dieting?
Yes, that's exactly.
So I've known a lot of people that have done intermittent fasting for years.
Okay.
I honestly, as I said, I don't really dig it personally, but that's my own challenges. I end up, I want to give an example so years and years ago, I was trying to create a program to help people be more healthy during Ramadan. Ramadan, people fast all day and then they're only able to eat after when it's dark outside, basically.
Right.
And it's for an entire month. You would think that people would become healthier during this time because they're not eating all day, but they're actually their metabolic markers become less healthy. Their blood sugar control becomes less healthy because they're having these feast type parties every night, and they're really overindulging when they're allowed to eat. And if you do it right, if you do it under the guidance of somebody that really knows what they're doing, if you start out your meals, if you're breaking your fast with fiber, protein, and healthy fats, absolutely you can become healthier even after years of intermittent fasting. It's not something that the body can't do. It's fine for the body to do it. It just has to be done in a healthy way.
One of the questions I asked you, so one of our key markers, if you wake up and you're not hungry, like you say, oh my gosh, I can't eat till after 10. And this is not someone doing intermittent fasting or have done it. It's just they feel like I can't eat in the morning. Like you wake up and you just can't put anything in your mouth. That's an indication of high cortisol. So in doing the intermittent fasting with them, we start getting cortisol balance. But again, it's under a moderated structure.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, another trend is the red light therapy devices. They're like everywhere, and I am actually guilty of buying one because I fell for that, and I got the face one because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna produce more collagen, bring some use to my face.
Sounds like you have an opinion on this already.
But I don't know, like, are there real benefits to this red light therapy, like for the skin and inflammation, or is it just like clever marketing that can, like, I fell for it, so I don't know. Are there benefits for this?
There's actually some legit science.
Oh, yes.
I would say if I went onto Amazon and bought a $12 red light machine off of Amazon, it probably is not going to work. I mean, it takes a specific wavelength of light, and there's an enzyme, cytochrome C oxidase, that actually absorbs photons in this wavelength of light, and it causes a whole bunch of stuff that happens. One of the things that happens is increased collagen synthesis. It is not dramatic. It is, I mean, honestly, you are better off taking a good quality collagen supplement than doing one of these red light things. But there is some science there, and there is some small improvement as far as skin health goes.
Okay.
There's also, and probably even better than the skin health stuff, is the pain management. And again, this isn't great results, but it's analogous to ozone therapy in a way where you're creating inflammation slightly in a controlled zone in a controlled area that you're basically creating reactive oxygen species in a controlled area, which again, this goes back to what Kim was saying. It's kind of something that needs to be personalized. If I've already got excess oxidative stress and whatnot, I'm probably causing more harm than good. But if I'm a relatively healthy person, I can improve collagen synthesis by doing this. I can also reduce pain by doing this, and especially things like tendonitis, where I have chronic inflammation. Because in chronic inflammation, my body's systems are basically kind of broken. And sometimes doing something to kickstart additional inflammation in that area can reset my body's anti-inflammation systems and knock down that inflammation and help reduce pain and help that heal. So there is some benefit there. The other thing people talk about with red light therapy is, again, fat burning. If you go to one of those spas, they'll put like red light belts around your waist.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the least science approach of all of the different red light things. The idea is that it mobilizes fat. It basically allows the fat to leak out of the fat cells, which is great if you are burning extra calories. And I mean, you can theoretically target specific areas, but if I'm not burning extra calories, if I'm not in a calorie deficit, the fat's just going to reaccumulate. It's not doing anything really. And it can actually cause some issues with toxin mobilization and things like that as well. So it is very personal. The results with weight loss are not great unless you're actually doing other things to lose weight. And the pain and collagen synthesis, there's some science, but again, it's not going to be dramatic. You're not going to all of a sudden, 10 years younger because you bought a $15 red light mask or multicolored light. I mean, they have the LED ones that you can program all different light colors.
Okay.
They're not doing that much.
Would it be beneficial for someone that, say, has knee osteoarthritis and they get that specialized red light? There's like this device I saw and it was just for the knee. Would that help with the inflammation?
It could.
It could. Okay.
It absolutely could. There is some science around there. And if you go to a chiropractor, for example,
right,
that's one of the therapies that many chiropractors will offer. There's the things like the cupping, the ozone shots, the red light, and they're all kind of trying to do the same thing. Okay. Increase blood flow to a certain area, increase in a controlled way inflammation so that it kickstarts your body's response, those types of things. And there is some science there. I've had it done. I injured my back. I didn't get anything out of it personally, but then again, my back was really messed up. So it was a little beyond what red light therapy could fix. I did see some relief with ozone, honestly. So
Yes, I saw that too. Okay.
I'm going to chime in.
Yeah. Yes, you.
It's my turn to chime, Mike. So like this, okay, so I have the facial one too, Blondie. So we're
Yeah,
good.
I spent a couple hundred on that, so I'm guessing it's much better than that $15 one.
Well, I think the one that we have with our spa is like it was like a little over $2,000, but it
Okay.
creates a photobiomodulation on that like therapy that absorbs those the chromophores in the skin. So it triggers this release, this increase of adenosine triphosphate, the ATP production in the cells on that mitochondrial level. So it gets into like we use it, sometimes people do it for wound healing. We've got a hair restoral one that we do, but Mike's correct. It helps because it increases the collagen and decreases the inflammation. So when you're looking at that, we also I have a PEMF device in my office, and we have a red light therapy on that. That's really intense, and it works like on a Tesla type system. So what it does is they can use those different wavelengths in the light for different things. So you can use it by the intensity. So like with acne, it would be like a higher intensity that we use. And again, Mike mentioned all the different colors and stuff that you can do with stuff, because a lot of people now are doing the blue light,
Right.
with the outermost layer to help the acne and the bacteria that builds up with acne and things like that is what it's being touted for. The red light we use for inflammatory stuff, and the one for the knee, I used the one on my PEMF device, but I tore my meniscus, and that was one of the treatments I did that took the pain and inflammation down of that. But then also, I'm going to go back, like we tell everybody to like rely on the quality of our herbs with Nature Sunshine. So it's all about the quality of the equipment the same way, so we're in the same ballpark there of which one are you using, and what's the intensity of it, and like what conditions are you using it under. So yeah, I mean, we do that. We do have the red light therapy in our office. We do it for a lot of pain situations that are mild, like, overexertion type pain, things like that. But we also recommend that you, of course, change lifestyle to reduce inflammation. And we're also doing a little bit higher dosage of collagen with that too.
Okay.
I'm really glad that I said what I said, because I pretty much agreed with Kim, and I would have felt bad if I'd been like, "Oh, it's terrible. It doesn't work at all." And she's using it. So I'm glad that the science was
Glad we
in
are all
agreement with what Kim said.
Yes.
I have to research so much stuff. Like I told you, everybody approaches me, "Oh, you're gonna have this. You're gonna have this in your office. You got to try this with your patient." And I spend so many hours of the day researching stuff. And sometimes seriously, on certain things, I can't come up with the justification to use it. So our nurse practitioner did all the research on this and came up with this. And they were doing this cool sculpting too. We don't do any infrared for the fat therapy at all. She does more of that cool sculpting on that.
I love that. Okay. On TikTok, I don't know if you guys heard this term. It's called fiber masking. Maxing. Yeah, I can never say that word. Fiber maxing is blowing up. People are loading up on fiber to mimic Ozempic-like effects. Is there a science-based upper limit for how much fiber we should be having? Is there a such thing as overdoing fiber? Like, how do we know we're getting the right amount of fiber?
Yeah, I mean, yes, there is improved digestive health with fiber. It's like if they just started fiber maxing, though, I was laughing because I'm like, please do not put me in the same room with them.
I agree.
Because like so many people have so much gut dysbiosis and inefficient digestive systems, you can't just start dumping fiber in when you haven't had that much fiber before. I would increase. You want to titrate up for that. So yeah, the fiber is more filling, so it can help control the appetite and reduce overall, what you're eating. But What type of fiber? We're back to quality again. Is it a soluble fiber or an insoluble fiber? And I know Mike's going to have a lot to say on insoluble fiber, so I'm going to leave that for him. Okay. But I do have a lot of people that were doing the GLP-1s, and basically those they slow the gastric emptying. Yeah. So filling it up with fiber when they're coming off from those injections as weight loss injections, they can fill up with fiber and they don't see as much of the effect coming off from the shots. So I think that's why it's gained some momentum on TikTok, because so many people are doing those injections.
Right. Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I have a ton to say on this one.
I knew you did.
I feel like the fact that we have to resort to injections to feel full and to not eat it makes me feel a little sad inside, because there's a reason why fiber does some of the same types. I mean, fiber is never going to do the same thing that a GLP-1 drug will do.
Right.
A GLP-1 drug fully shuts off hunger, basically. It fully shuts it off. At least that mechanism. There's some other satiety hormones that it doesn't interact with, but when you are fully shutting off something like that, you're going to get a very strong effect, obviously. It's the drug-like effect where you would compare like a SSRI inhibitor in the brain, like one of the mood drugs, to something like anxiousness, which has a similar mechanism, but it's a lot more balanced and a lot less addictive, a lot less it doesn't change the body's physiology to the same extent. I really think when you take a drug and that drug is fully activating or deactivating a system, the body starts to compensate. So I don't like him in general, at least that type of thing. I also think that if I'm eating whole food, like real whole food, that's the problem, is we've processed our food to the extent that we no longer have fiber in our food. We no longer have polyphenols, antioxidants, phytonutrients in our food. What we're eating comes from a box. If it doesn't come from a box, it's a product of industrialized agriculture, where we're not putting the things back in the soil that allow the plants to have the phytonutrients that they need. We've reduced the fiber in our fruits and vegetables because we don't like the way fiber tastes. So we do not have real food anymore to a large extent. I mean, there is some, but to a large extent, people don't eat real food. Because of that, we eat more than we should. We don't have the right satiety signals. I mean, we literally have, we could talk about our enteric nervous system for a long time. We're literally supposed to sense when we've eaten the things that we're supposed to eat, the phytonutrients, the fiber. Fiber triggers GLP-1. Eating fiber actually triggers GLP-1. It feeds the microbiome, and then the microbiome triggers GLP-1. That's really what it is. Short chain fatty acids are produced when we consume fiber that trigger our satiety hormones, not just GLP-1, but others. When we eat nutrients, it triggers a satiety response because our enteric nervous system is telling our brain we've had what we're supposed to have. So if I'm eating real whole food, we shouldn't need something that's a drug that makes us feel full. We need it because we're eating pizza. We need it because we're eating Kraft macaroni and cheese. We need it because we're eating McDonald's hamburgers. And we have no capability to feel full because we're not getting the things that we need from our diet. And we get used to this stomach being full. So our stretch receptors become less and less sensitive over time, because my stomach might be saying, hey, I'm full, but my enteric nervous system saying, hey, keep giving me more because I haven't gotten the nutrients that I need. I'm not producing any short chain fatty acids because my microbiome is messed up. And so I'm not creating this normal satiety response that I should get when I eat real food. I actually kind of like the fiber maxing concept because, yes, I may not be getting great quality food, but at least then I would be getting some fiber and I'd be feeding my microbiome. The problem is If I'm doing fiber maxing, I'm going to the store and I'm getting Benefiber or Metamucil or something like that.
Right.
I'm not feeding my microbiome. I'm not doing anything good for my body. It's it's like going and getting a Quest bar and thinking a Quest bar is healthy because it has
As
fiber and it's
protein.
low in
Yeah. Yeah.
carbs and it has
Yeah.
protein. But the fiber is soluble corn fiber that's really not having a big impact on my glucose metabolism. It's really not having a big impact on my uh, my microbiome. If I'm doing things the right way, my fiber maxing should come from eating whole fruits and vegetables
Okay.
or getting fiber from whole fruits and vegetables. I mean, if I'm fiber maxing by eating blueberries and raspberries and strawberries and those kinds of things, that's really the right way to fiber max. But I will say that putting something in my stomach that's not going to spike my blood sugar, that's going to allow me to feel like I have something in my stomach, it actually does work. It even if I'm just taking psyllium, which I like psyllium. Psyllium is great,
Yeah, I love psyllium too.
but psyllium is more of
Ultrabiome
yeah.
DTX. I love that
Well,
product.
see, ultrabiome isn't psyllium; it's way more than psyllium.
Yeah, it's way more. Yeah.
It's soluble fibers that help improve gut microbiome. It's insoluble fibers from apple fruit as well. It's a mix of things to where you're going to feel a little bit of something in your gut, but it's also
Right.
feeding your microbiome. And it's also got glutamine to help improve gut barrier function, which I like ultrabiome. I'm a big fan, but it's different than the
So
typical
fiber.
fiber massing that people are doing. It's a lot more complex. But even if I'm just using psyllium, just pure psyllium, there are some benefits. There's some detox benefits. It's filling my stomach. There's not as much microbiome benefit. There's not as much glucose modulation, but it's still better than in my mind anyway, resorting to a pharmaceutical approach.
Okay. I love it. Okay, next topic is probiotics. So we have so many probiotics and there's so many probiotics out there, but like they all range from different CFUs. Some have millions, some have billions. Does more really mean it's better? So what should we look for when we're choosing a probiotic? Like, do we want the CFU count to be in the billions, or does it just not matter?
I'm going to give you my little analogy here that I tell patients is, do you want a skyline that just has one skyscraper on it, or do you want diversity that you have different size buildings in your skyline? So I am more prone to working with diversity when it comes to
Okay.
probiotics, because I think that we're each so different. Okay. And then how do we know what we need? Like each little culture, it's like, remember those little terrariums that you did in school? Like everybody had different little things in there. So it's kind of like our microbiome, we're all so different. It's like as unique as a fingerprint. So how do you identify your needs on what you need? Do you need to improve digestion? Are you looking more for immune health? Are you trying to address a specific condition like, your celiac colitis, diverticulitis things? So for the CFU count, that just, it indicates the number of live bacteria per dose. But we also want to know what types of those bacterial strains are and which ones we're trying to use to be effective for which specific, health concern of that individual. And then, of course, we're back to quality. We're back to some of them are like we have to take storage into consideration because some are refrigerated and some aren't. So, there's just some questions that I have to go through and ask people so that I can get the right benefits for them, because I need to know what their particular issue or concern is. So like somebody that has like disrupted their gut microbial balance, then like an overall, like a good strain of a different variety of diversity for the bacteria in there would help for the different probiotics. So it just depends on like what do you want to achieve is the first question.
Okay, so like someone, like for example, just trying to get good digestion, what CFU count should they focus on? Is there a limit? I know it
So
depends on the individual, but it's
I'm going to say that CFU count is more of a marketing
Yeah.
thing
okay,
than
okay,
anything
okay.
else.
I
Because
don't
like
even look at it. I really
get
don't
so
look at it.
confused. Like I was like, okay, so do I want millions or do I want billions? Like, is that
It's
really
almost always going to be in the billions
okay?
at this
Yeah.
point, but there's been this kind of arms race of the more the better when it
Yeah.
comes to CF count,
Right.
which is not true at all. It is
Okay.
much,
No.
much, much more relevant to have the right strain of bacteria that's actually going to
Right.
do something in your gut.
And the
Um,
diversity. That was good.
and
Sorry.
Yeah.
oftentimes it's not, I mean, so there are bacteria, specific species of bacteria that have specific effects in the body. There's things like rhamnosus, plantarum, both lactobacillus that have a significant impact on both gut health and immunity. I like those two species. I'm not just going to take a trillion CFU of acidophilus and expect all of the things that plantarum and rhamnosus to do will happen. That being said, even though there are specific uh, benefits from specific strains, the microbiome should be incredibly complex. I mean, we're talking thousands of species. Um, what I actually like about specific types of probiotics is they can make the gut more friendly to other friendly bacteria. And that I think is something that's really, really important because I should have a huge diversity of bacteria in my gut. That's one of the things that we've gone away from, or we've lost as a species because our diet has become more processed, less fiber, less polyphenols, and we're eating more simple starches, easy to break down and digest foods. Um, the bacteria that we used to rely on to break down our food with us are dying off in our guts, and we're having less of the good, beneficial, help us break down symbiotic bacteria, and more of the bacteria that are just kind of almost pathogenic that can defend their turf really well. That they're super happy that you're feeding them simple starches and sugars, and the problem there is you get more inflammation. You lose out on all of those short chain fatty acids, all these other bacterial metabolites that are signal molecules. And one of the things with probiotics, there's non-responders and there's responders for probiotics. There's people that take probiotics and it does nothing to their gut. One of the reasons is because their gut is so unfriendly to these bacteria, these healthy bacteria, that they can never really start to grow and develop. This is one of the reasons why I really think that it's not just a probiotic. It is a system that allows your gut to uh, start to rebuild a microbiome in a healthy way. I mean, Kim and I have been doing a lot of work on a cleanse system that is very microbiome favorable, that starts to deplete the bacteria that you currently have in your gut because we're assuming that you're not that healthy, and then allowing a probiotic, a good multi-strain probiotic, like a probiotic 11 type thing, to actually start to have adhesion, to actually start to grow, to start to make a benefit into my gut. And then I'm taking that with prebiotic fibers, and because I've knocked down the total amount of bacteria in my gut, I have room for those new bacteria to start to live and thrive. And I'm feeding those new bacteria things that they need to eat that the other bacteria can't eat. So I'm giving them a competitive advantage. So it's really a system. It's not just probiotics. I'm going to be fixed. Great. There are probiotics that make a massive benefit in my health, but they have to actually be able to adhere. They have to actually be able to do stuff. So CFU count, I think, is a total crock. Honestly,
Okay.
once
I
you
love
get to a certain
I
amount, you've got
agree.
enough.
Agreed.
And it's getting them to adhere and getting the right strains that is much more important than the number of bacterial forming units that you have in there, colony forming units.
Okay, I love
Yeah.
that because CSU count got me all confused and now I have my answer. So thank you for that. Last question for this podcast. Mouth taping. Mouth taping at night has gone viral for better sleep and oxygenation. I don't know if there's any science behind this, but if you guys
Oh
know,
my
please
gosh.
share. And would you recommend something like this to someone? Because I feel like there's better ways to improve sleep quality, but I would love to hear your
Can
intake. Yes.
I'm just gonna do it for my spouse. That's it. No,
I,
I'm just
I was
kidding.
gonna I was gonna try it too, to be fair, because I'm like, oh, like
Oh
I
God.
see all these people benefiting, and then I'm like, oh my God, like what if I suffocate myself
No.
or
Okay.
something?
So I'm going to chime in on this because I work really closely. We have a biological dentist that we work with and I refer to, and he's also an ND. So we have like the most amazing conversations. So we talk about jaw placement and how so many people had braces and you've had root canals and you've had implants and things that are changing the shape of the jawline. And he's like, so most people are trying to push the jaw back to get everything in alignment, even, with your Invisalign, your braces, things. So he's saying that pushes back on the adenoids and it pushes back on like where your lymph drains there, and it's causing an inflammatory response there, that you're getting the snoring and you're not breathing through the nose because you're getting like that sleep apnea and things like that. So my answer is, and we work together on this, my answer is you do a lot of lymphatic cleansing is going to be your underlying thing, because we're back to, okay, mouth taping. I have some people I could think of that might be beneficial, but now I'm being naughty. So
That's only when I'm awake that you can do that to me, right?
right.
So,
But I just think like that's one of those little band-aids. Like, it's like a symptomatic fix, like kind of like the GLP-1 injections. It's like a symptomatic fix. Why aren't you going to the root cause to encourage nasal breathing and reducing things that cause like the dry mouth or the bad breath? How are you going to help with the mild sleep apnea without working on lymphatic movement or, breaking down mucus from histamine responses to all the poor food that you've eaten during the day?
so I'm going to say that if somebody had put tape over my mouth when I was sleeping, I probably would have died.
Yeah, I would too.
Because I had a deviated septum. I broke my nose multiple times when I was a kid. I eventually had surgery. Now I can breathe through my nose, but I literally couldn't breathe through my nose. And I have sleep apnea. I mean, I'm a power lifter. At least I used to be a power lifter. I used to have a 21-inch neck, which is just ridiculous. And if I lay down at night, the weight of my neck would actually close off my breathing, to where I couldn't breathe very well. If I didn't have a CPAP, I would actually have periods of low oxygen, which is actually causing damage to my brain, to my body. Sleep apnea, sleep disorders are actually really dangerous. That decreased oxygen to the brain, that decreased oxygen to the organs of your body that are necessary to function, is a serious deal. Putting tape over somebody's mouth can actually make that worse. Maybe they don't snore as much because their mouth isn't open. I mean, but you are literally causing yourself a health problem. There are mouthpieces. I mean, you're saying you work with a dentist, that there's dentists that you can go to that specialize in TMJ, snoring, things like that. And there's a mouthpiece that can actually position your jaw in a better way that allows you to breathe better. Do that. Don't put tape over your mouth.
Right. And you were talking about, the oxygen saturation in the blood. So, and that affects your nitric oxide as well. So improving nitric oxide during the day can actually help with that oxygen saturation. Things like yoga can help because you're learning different breathing techniques and increasing oxygen level. Even things like, we're in a very dry climate here. So a humidifier is one thing that I do recommend for my patients. And I really see some of the mucus and congestion buildup with alcohol late at night too. So, maybe limiting that. And then back to, the mouth guards and things like that is a much better way to go. And plus you're doing it under a supervision, right? The whole thing of just like taping your mouth shut, I don't know. It just baffles me.
Yeah.
Of all the things I've talked about, this is the only one that I'm a hard no on.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
It's actually dangerous. It is literally dangerous.
I'm glad we had this. We talked about it because there are people out there, who are putting tape. So no tape. All right. Thank you, you guys.
I think Mike's very first statement to this whole podcast of, if it's on the internet, it must be true. I think we have to go back to that as our like a little amended quote here.
Yeah. Well, wow, we've covered a lot today, from cold plunges to mouth taping, which is an absolute no-no. And I think we need a second episode to cover all the other topics that we were going to discuss. So maybe we can plan something again. And some of these hacks may be helpful and others seem to be a hype. But what matters most is finding what truly works for your body. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Balas and Mike Saunders, for sharing your expertise and insights and knowledge. I've learned so much, and I'm sure the viewers, the listeners have learned so much. So thank you to all of you for joining us on this Sunlight session of biohacking, hype or helpful. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, here's bringing health and knowledge into the light. And until we meet again, bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Balas and Mike. Really.